From the unexpected truth behind how iconic stare-downs were actually achieved, to real-life drama making already awesome sequences that little bit more impressive. You'll likely never see these fine features the same way again once you've got through the following 10 entries of factual film gold. I'm Gareth from WhatCulture.com, and here are 10 shocking facts you didn't know about classic movies. Number 10. Titanic. Neil deGrasse Tyson changed an important scene. Unless you've been hiding away from modern society for the last 2 decades, you've likely stumbled across the name Neil deGrasse Tyson and the record-breaking box office smash hit that was Titanic. However, what you may not have realized is that these two entities actually collided a few years ago, in the lead-up to James Cameron re-releasing his film in 3D back in 2012. As the legendarily precise director later explained, maverick astrophysicist Tyson pinged him a snarky email, explaining that he'd originally made a bit of a cock-up during one of the film's climactic moments. As Rose lay on some driftwood and stared up at the stars, Cameron actually showed off what Tyson claimed to be the wrong field of stars for that position in the Atlantic in 1912. So, ever the perfectionist, Cameron went back to the drawing board and used the correct correlation of stars as provided by Tyson for its eventual 15th anniversary re-release. We got there in the end. Number 9. Forrest Gump. The iconic running sequence was nearly cut. Yep, there was a time when arguably the most iconic moment of the Tom Hanks starring immortal flick was on the verge of being left out altogether. Madness! Back before Forrest Gump had gone on to become one of the defining features of the megastar's career, the studio was getting cold feet about the aforementioned sequence that saw Hanks' Gump run across the country for 3 years, as he dealt with his love Jenny walking out on him. We've all been there. In short, they simply didn't want to stump up the cash to shoot the legendary run. So with both Robert Zemeckis and Hanks adamant that the scene needed to be included when all was said and done, both the director and leading man put their heads and money together to get it in the can. In return for his investment out of his salary, Hanks took a cut of the movie's eventual profits. Not a bad move, I think you'll agree. It's hard to imagine a world where Gump didn't go out running and make Sugar Honey Iced Tea happen, but thankfully Hanks and Zemeckis had other ideas. Number 8. A Streetcar Named Desire. Vivien Leigh refused to smash any mirrors. It's not exactly breaking news to hear about an actor refusing to play ball on a movie set. But in the case of Vivien Leigh straight up refusing to do what Elia Kazan wanted during the creation of the iconic A Streetcar Named Desire, it's not too difficult to see where she was coming from. Tasked with being in the vicinity of a mirror cracking as Blanche Dubois and Stanley Kowalski physically struggled together, the film legend understandably didn't want any part in genuinely smashing a mirror on set. Who wants to invite that sort of bad luck onto themselves, right? With the incredibly superstitious performer not keen on the 7 years of bad fortune, Kazan instead opted to have a prop man smash up the mirror a whopping 11 times to get the precise version of the take. So for those keeping count, that poor soul walked away with a staggering 77 years bad luck in the end, rather than me. Number 7. Elf. Many of the New York scenes were shot in an asylum. Who doesn't love cuddling up around the TV come Christmas time and taking in one of the most heartwarming and off-the-wall comedies the festive period has ever brought into existence? Well, next time you do throw the outrageous escapades of Buddy the Elf on as the snow begins to fall, this next piece of astounding trivia will likely leave you questioning everything you ever knew. Maybe not, but it's still pretty shocking. As it was later made known during Netflix's The Holiday Movies That Made Us series, production designer Rusty Smith let loose that many of the classic film's interior New York City shots were actually filmed within an abandoned mental institution. Said facility was based in British Columbia and acted as the repurposed backdrop for the orphanage, the Hobbs apartment, and Greenway Press, among other environments seen in the flick. Going further when discussing the unsettling locale by the name of Riverview Hospital, Smith divulged that it was one of the creepiest places I've ever been in my life. You really just never know where the next holiday hit is gonna set up shop next. Number 6. The Wizard of Oz. Asbestos was used for snow. From Munchkins supposedly ending their own lives in shots used for the actual flick, to makeup leaving many of the stars feeling worse for wear, the line between myth and truth has often been blurred when discussing the behind-the-scenes details and events that went down whilst creating the all-time classic that is The Wizard of Oz. One of the various pieces of jaw-dropping trivia to have reared its head in the years since its initial release was the revelation of what exactly went into the sight of snow falling onto Julie Garland's Dorothy and the rest of her squad during the film. film. Despite asbestos now being known to potentially cause lung and genetic damage once it's been inhaled and trapped within the body, the 1930s were a different time, one where it was pretty common to use the white powder to create the visual of lovely snow falling. Actor health be damned. The stars of this mega hit put their bodies through it in general, with Buddy Ebsen infamously being recast after being poisoned by Tin Man makeup, and Wicked Witch of the West actor Margaret Hamilton suffering burns performing a smoky stunt too. Number 5. The Fellowship of the Ring. Sean Bean refused to fly, so hiked up a mountain every morning. There's an awful lot to admire about the absolute spectacle that Peter Jackson was able to capture when ushering his game-changing Lord of the Rings trilogy into existence. A host of captivating turns from some of the most talented thespians of their generation, CGI so crisp you think a Nazgul picking you off mid-Sunday stroll was a serious possibility, and the awe-inspiring New Zealand backdrops acting as the stage for Tolkien's Middle-earth, just a few of these notably impressive feats. But on the subject of the film's filming locations, not every actor signed up to play their part in bringing this epic to life was over the moon about shooting in legit settings. In particular, a flight-dreading Sean Bean was completely against hopping on a helicopter every morning when it came time to film some of the trilogy's iconic mountain sequences. This specific fear of stepping onto that contraption meant that the Boromir actor had to hike up the side of a mountain for 2 hours each and every morning, happily taking the L for lateness if it meant that he didn't have to risk his life gliding up a Middle-earth mountain range. Number 4. Batman. Kim Basinger's shoes kept scratching some expensive bat paint. The debate over exactly which legendary Batmobile is the out-and-out greatest is one that will seemingly wage on for eternity. Yet even if you don't class it as the all-time best of the Bat flicks, just about everyone can appreciate the sheer beauty of the gothic masterpiece wheeled out during Tim Burton's 1989 Batman entry. But said beauty was to be protected at all costs as it goes. The paint used to spray the vehicle was specifically imported in from Japan and was notoriously sensitive. I can seriously relate. This led to it needing to be resprayed on numerous occasions over the course of the flick, and one of the film's stars, Kim Basinger, having to perform a seemingly pointless act during the picture itself, launching her heels off during a sequence that involved her having to flee the vehicle with Michael Keaton's bats. This was actually largely due to her heels scratching the car upon exiting it. Sure, you could argue that doing a runner in heels also isn't very practical, but this fact was actually confirmed in the film's behind-the-scenes documentary, proving that the Batmobile's paint job was clearly a bigger priority than having Basinger pull off a Jurassic World heel sprint. Number 3. Deliverance. How to play a banjo without knowing how. Certain acts are easier to wing on the day than others when it comes to performing them on a movie set. Singing a song or busting a move should the role require it? Piece of cake. Skillfully using a banjo to duel with another gifted musician on the day, not so much. That's the position Billy Redden was in during the making of 1972's Deliverance, when his character found himself strumming out a tune on the aforementioned instrument. With Redden having little experience plucking the strings, the decision was made to infuse some movie magic into the exchange in order to create the intricate tune heard throughout. However, the left hand making the chords wasn't owned by the Lonnie actor. Instead, a talented banjo player was brought in to act as Redden's left chord-playing hand, as Lonnie battled with Ronnie Cox's Drew Ballinger in the well-known musical back and forth. Trying to sync up 2 separate individuals playing a banjo, though, not what you class as an easy day at the office by any means. Number 2. The Rocky Horror Picture Show. Most of the cast didn't know a corpse was coming. Why bother acting when you can simply react, eh? One of the oldest tricks in the book came in rather handy for Jim Sharman during the making of the Rocky Horror Picture Show, with the director in need of as genuine a response as humanly possible. When revealing a corpse under a dining table in one of the film's more memorable occurrences, he settled on simply not informing a large chunk of his cast what was set to invade their eyeballs. With the exception of Tim Curry, who was tasked with unveiling the body in said scene, everyone else in the immediate surroundings hadn't the slightest clue a dead body was set to be thrown into the mix. So the sight of Eddie's mangled frame eliciting an immediate recoiling of just about everyone nearby was about as genuine as it gets, giving Sharman the natural and organic reaction he so desperately desired, and his audience another outstandingly outrageous slice of chaos to chew on in the process. Number 1. Rocky 3. Thunderlips actually had some platform assistance. Hulk Hogan isn't what you class as a diminutive human being by any stretch of the imagination. Standing at a towering 6 foot 7 inches tall, the Hulkster also isn't exactly used to meeting people's eye line on a day-to-day basis. This freakish size was evident again during the making of the legendary Rocky III, when the WWE icon was put up against Sylvester Stallone's titular boxer in a crossover contest of sorts. And while it was widely accepted that Hogan's Thunder Lips would realistically find himself staring down at the Italian Stallion's head, the truth isn't actually as straightforward as it may seem. As revealed by Sly himself on Instagram recently, Hogan was required to stand on a sizable platform in order to achieve the visual of him putting the Hollywood superstar in his shadow. In truth, Hogan still has a solid 24 centimeters on Stallone when it comes to their overall body length. You know what I mean? But the actor/director clearly felt that the platform would help sell his gigantic size that little bit more in the end. It's hard to argue with the results, but it still makes for a kayfabe-killing reveal, it must be said.